welcome to the How to Learn Anything course from Plato University, where you're going to learn the science-based tools of pro learners to accelerate your learning, remember more, and master any hard skills. These are the secret techniques they didn't tell you in school. If you're passionate about changing your life with learning, join us at plato.university to get exclusive content with every lesson. I'm your learning guide, Brandon Stover, and let's get started. All right, so far in our learning process, we've created a learning plan and began using that learning plan to learn some knowledge or skill. We first began with the explore phase, where we're learning foundational material and engaging in active and focused learning to start embedding that information into our memory. Then we move to the engage phase, where we're practicing the knowledge that we learned or practice skills in order to make that knowledge that we've moved from short-term memory to long-term memory really stick and be able to be applied later. Which brings us to our current point, moving into the execution phase, where we are really going to begin mastering what we've already learned. After gaining an understanding of fundamentals, the next phase is about applying that knowledge and skills to higher level concepts, new contexts, and producing new and original works. This part of our learning journey is known as the execution phase, where the emphasis is on mastery. In the classical trivium, this was known as rhetoric, which provides how knowledge and understanding of a subject are applied. Now, what is mastery? Mastering a skill or knowledge concept means fully understanding that knowledge or skill before moving on to the next one. Mastery learning was first proposed in 1968 by Benjamin Bloom, a famous education researcher. Bloom compared students in a conventional classroom to a mastery learning classroom and found that the average student in a mastery learning classroom was above 84% of students in the conventional class. Even more significant, students with one-to-one tutoring with mastery learning were above 98% of students in the conventional class. Bloom called this the 2 sigma problem because tutored students performed 2 whole standard deviations better than students in a conventional class. See, in mastery learning, different students can spend as long as they need to master each topic. This means that every student of the class gets up to a high standard in every topic. No one is left behind, regardless of the speed at which they master each topic. There's a shift in responsibilities, so that the student's failure is more due to the instruction and not necessarily a lack of ability on their part. Therefore, in a mastery learning environment, the challenge becomes providing enough time and employing instructional strategies that all students can achieve the same level of learning. Now, this is probably a lot different than when you went through school. When you learned something and went to take a test on it and did really bad, you were the one that was blamed for it, for not studying hard enough or for understanding the material. But in a mastery-based learning environment, where if you're not understanding a concept, then the one teaching you hasn't provided either enough time or the right material for you to learn and master the concept. Now, Plato University is designed with mastery learning at its core. Students can spend as much time as they need in order to really understand and be able to apply it in new situations. To unlock more advanced skills, you must master the previous ones. To unlock more specialized information, you must first master the foundational concepts. And why is this so important? Well, let's return back to our friendly educational psychologist, Benjamin Bloom, who developed a hierarchy of learning known as Bloom's taxonomy. At the base of this hierarchy or pyramid, we start with remember, the ability to recall something from memory at a basic level. And this is why some of the techniques that we first taught you was allowing you to recall information, to remember, to pull it from memory. Now, as we move up Bloom's taxonomy, we move from the bottom level of just recalling information to actually understanding it, being able to explain ideas or concepts, to applying it, using that information in new situations, analyzing it, drawing connections among different ideas, evaluating it, where we justify the reason that we applied certain information in a way that we did. And the utmost level in Bloom's taxonomy is to create. It's one thing to understand the thinking or ideas of another, or even to criticize or evaluate them. It's an entirely different thing to create your own original thoughts. In this stage, we know enough about a topic to develop our own related works. At the most basic level, this is the difference between being a music aficionado, knowing different types of music, how they relate to one another and the theories behind them, and actually being able to compose your own music. So when we're engaging on the path to mastery, we don't want you to just be able to remember things. We want you to be able to actually create new things based on this knowledge that you've learned. We're moving up Bloom's taxonomy. Now, what does a master actually look like? Well, let's return back to our learning process that we've talked about in the last couple phases. Recall that during our learning process, we moved knowledge from short-term memory to long-term memory. We then created mental links or associated concepts and spent time practicing recall or skill procedures in order to really solidify what we had learned into our memory. Now, this is where all the hard work pays off, because we have created sufficient cues for remembering knowledge and can easily access it when we need to apply it. Specifically, we have converted declarative knowledge into procedural knowledge. Remember, declarative knowledge being those different facts that we pick up from what we're learning, creating concepts and relationships between those facts so that we embed it into our long-term memory. And procedural knowledge being the automatic procedure for skills and different knowledge concepts. See, the process of becoming an expert of a domain or a master requires converting a lot of declarative knowledge into that automatic, unconscious procedural knowledge. For example, when you're becoming a surgeon, you have a decade's worth of education that you're pulling up when you're going to perform that surgery. You wouldn't want your surgeon going and looking at the medical textbook before he's going to cut you open. You want him to have all of that knowledge embedded in his mind and automatically pulling it all up when he's going to start the surgery. He's converted that decade's worth of education into an unconscious procedural set of steps that he can apply in order to perform surgery. Some would say that when you're becoming a master and converting this declarative knowledge into that automatic and unconscious procedural knowledge, you're gaining the ability to use intuition and to think fast. Additionally, the true master is not only able to apply their knowledge in the context in which they learned it, but can apply it in an entirely novel situation, which is known as transfer. So our surgeon, in this medical example, is able to transfer all the knowledge that he learned in the context of medical school into the actual operating room and be able to apply it. He's able to transfer the knowledge from that first context into the second context. Now, what are the steps that you need to take in order to master something? Well, here's the secret. You've already been doing it this entire time. See, at the beginning of our learning journey, we started to input information and learn it through active and focused learning sessions. We sat down, focused on the material that we were going to learn, and actively started to engage with it. Then we went from the focus mode, where we're actively engaging with that material, into the diffuse mode, maybe taking a walk, washing the dishes, to allow time for those new neural connections to grow and solidify. Then, as we began having more active learning sessions, we began the process of moving that new material that we learned from short-term memory to long-term memory by doing things like deliberate practice, active recall, and creating associations, which allows us to create large links of information stored in our long-term memory and strengthen those links with every practice session that we do. And finally, we're reaching our last step, where now that we have those links in our long-term memory, we begin to pull them from our brain and apply them in new situations, taking our knowledge that we learned and actually using it. And what you're going to learn in the next 5 techniques is this actually going to help accelerate what you've learned. It's going to help you take that information from declarative knowledge, where you have to think about it all the time in order to pull it from long-term memory, and change it more into procedural knowledge, where things come to you intuitively and you're able to solve problems very quickly, or able to apply a set of steps or procedure in a skill unconsciously and automatically. So our activity today for this concept about mastery is to once again practice active recall. Call forth the major key concepts or points from this lesson about mastery so that you can really embed it into your long-term memory. The reason we're practicing active recall again is because it's the most foundational technique, and it's the one we want to master, just like we've been speaking today. Thank you for taking the How to Learn Anything course. To get everything you need to become a pro learner, including advanced resources, personal coaching, and a community of passionate learners just like you, then visit plato.university/courses/learning and join us for free. Again, that's plato.university/courses/learning. This course was produced by Plato University, where students turn passions into purpose and learn skills to change the world. Learn more at plato.university.